On this episode of Big Boys Don't Cry, we discuss Frozen and Frozen 2. You don't have to have seen either film to enjoy the podcast, but if you do proceed and listen without having seen them, just be aware that we discuss the plot, so there will be spoilers. Enjoy.
Hello.
Do you want to do a podcast? Talk about romantic films? There might be a shit piece or two. You never know. Let's watch some films. That's how it goes, right?
That's exactly how it goes, including the hesitations.
Sorry, what the listeners can't see is I've got my my son's Olaf the Snowman doll in my place instead of me.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's a very good quality Olaf.
It is. It's very good. It's mildly creepy, isn't it?
Well, Olaf is creepy. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. In fact, when the first time he appears on screen or as himself, his head rolls off and Christoph picks it up and goes, "You're creepy," and I'm like, "Yes, you are correct, Christoph. You are correct."
Yeah, he's a creepy dude as old Olaf.
Yep, he is. Played by our main man, Josh Gad.
Yes. We are Josh glad that he is in this movie.
Certainly. 'Tis the season to be glad still, although this is going out New Year's Day, so Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. I hope there's lots of baggage from 2020 that you can let go.
And leave on the baggage carousel for someone else to find and deal with.
Let it go, let it go. I can't deal with this shit anymore.
That's how it goes.
Let it go. This shitty year is done.
Here we stand in the light of day.
Yes.
Pandemic never bothered me anyway.
So Frozen is a film that
came out in 2010 and is about some people getting murdered on a chairlift.
Yeah, they get stuck on a chairlift and bad things happen to them. And then Disney took that property and made a very bold remake in 2013 where they changed all of it. There's no murder. There's no chairlift. And instead it's about an ice princess and hijinks ensue.
There's a fair bit of almost murder, but no actual murder.
And I think more than any other movie we've talked about on this podcast, this is the one that I think people have seen before the episode comes out, just because it's been impossible to avoid watching Frozen.
I don't know what you're saying about Under the Cherry Moon, but you need to stop right now.
Yeah, Purple Rain, Under the Cherry Moon, obviously everyone watched at age 5.
Yeah, I watched it coming out the womb.
As per mandatory viewing in the UK, everyone is made to watch Purple Rain. They send out DVDs free with the mail on Sunday.
Yeah, this is true.
As per Prince's request.
Before DVDs existed, it was VHS tapes, like taped to the front of the mail on Sunday. They couldn't even get it through the door, but they were forcing them in through the letterbox.
Massive laser discs just being thrown through people's windows.
Yeah, that's what it was like being born in the 80s in the UK.
Yeah. Just really violent paper boys just throwing stuff at you all the time.
Yeah, massive laser discs. What's it going to be today?
Is it going to be from Prince today, or are we going to get something from the Telegraph that's been aligned with Sting and the Police?
Oh, yep, that's true.
Yeah.
They always loved the Police, or as they're now known, Sting.
Exactly.
You know what Sting's real name is?
It was David Lynch's Dune Sting, isn't it? That's his full name.
Yes, it's Jonathan Eaglecrotch.
It's Sting. I did know his name. It's something incredibly boring, isn't it?
It's Gordon Sumner.
That's it, yeah.
I only know that because that came up on the family quiz this week. My Uncle John did a mastermind quiz. Which was
very
great.
Nice.
We came second, I think, but as our subject was Disney animated films, we did very well. But that was on the general knowledge round.
And he was a teacher, wasn't he? Before he became Sting and the Police.
Of what? Nonsense.
How dare you? love a bit of Sting and the Police.
No,
Every
to be
Breath
fair,
You
the Police
Take
have
is
some very good songs, and Andy Summers, I think, is actually a relatively underappreciated guitarist. Like, people don't even know who he is because Sting is the big personality, but he's the one who's playing that riff in Every Breath You Take, where you have to contort your fingers in a weird way. So fair play to him. Yeah,
exactly. Best Stalker's anthem, Every Breath You Take. That's not me being snarky. It is about the dangers of love, isn't it, really? And they get quite weirded out when people play it at their weddings and things like that, because that's not what it's meant to be about.
Yeah, there's a handful of songs like that as well, like The One I Love by R.E.M. being another one where it's actually like an anti-love song, but people take it at face value.
Yes, exactly. And obviously, how can you forget Desert Rose?
Desert Rose.
Absolute jam.
I don't know if I've heard it.
It came out and it released in the year 2000, and it was a dawn of a new era of music from Sting.
Sounds ominous.
But Sting is not in Frozen, unfortunately. I would love it if he was.
I mean, given that he was in Dune, it's not out of the realm of possibility, is it?
No, yeah, he could have played Olaf, couldn't he?
Yeah, he'd have been good.
Don't... Every breath you take is full of mist because it's cold out.
Yeah. But he doesn't need to take breaths because he's the snowman.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on the heat lamp because I'll melt.
Don't put on the heat lamp. Yeah, I can see that.
Elsa, put on the heat lamp.
Every little thing she does is ice magic.
Anyway, Frozen. We all know Frozen. You couldn't escape Frozen. It was a thing.
You cannot escape Frozen. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah, it was everywhere. And I think that generally it was deserving of the manic love that it had.
It's $1 billion property. You know that? Disney's made over $1 billion from it as an intellectual property, which is crazy money, even in Disney terms.
$5 million alone from Olaf branded sex toys.
Is that right?
Interestingly enough, no, that is a lie.
Know that.
But you wouldn't put it past
Sting
him,
would use one of those when he's being tantric.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and I think it's fairly deserving. I think that it was kind of the solidification of what Disney had started to do with Tangled, which was released a few years beforehand, which was starting to turn a little quirky eye at its own practices in its musical animated numbers.
Whilst also having great songs. So Tangled has some great numbers, and also it has a really interesting story, and it does a lot of interesting work with its characters. But and the voice of Mandy Moore, star of A Present for the President.
Exactly. And then they really refined that for Frozen, where there's a lot about this movie that kind of goes, yeah, you shouldn't be doing what we did in previous movies. This teenage girl does not know to marry someone after meeting them for one day.
You got engaged to a guy you just met?
It's almost a complete reversal of what you see in films like The Little Mermaid. And obviously there's been other movies that have really sort of solidified having more complex characters. So I think Aladdin does a really good job at that. I think Beauty and the Beast as well actually has some of that elements. People always go, oh, Beauty and the Beast, Stockholm Syndrome, but that's said by the same people that think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah. The same people who refuse to recognise the genius of Gaston.
Exactly. Whereas I think
Gosh, it disturbs me to see you, Frozen.
It's been impossible to miss you, Frozen. But I think Frozen does a really good job of that, where I go, yeah, that's not how love works. And yeah, there's actually nothing wrong with having a lead female character that doesn't fall in love at the end of the movie. And that's fine. And that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a refreshing thing. And obviously it comes... with it brings a load of jams. You've got...
We can say this with authority as well, because we've watched a lot of films with romance in them.
Yeah,
nearly 200 of them.
We are love experts.
The love experts.
To quote Christoph, we are the love experts.
Yeah. Or, as the love experts are revealed to be, small, ragged, rock-like trolls.
That's exactly what I am. I am also stocky and heavy and covered in moss. That's just my status in life.
Yeah. No, the first time I saw you across the crowded university, I thought,
you thought,
so he's a bit of a fixer-upper.
There's just a round rock covered in moss sitting in a lecture theatre.
Yeah.
And you think, what's that doing there? And then I unroll from my rock and I start singing.
Yeah.
And
the lecturer got very annoyed. And I was like, I like this guy.
I like this guy. He's disruptive. That's what we want in our education. But yeah, so Frozen.
Actually, my memory is that I met you in a nightclub. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
The first time. We were in the same halls, but the first time I met you.
And I think we talked about Metallica as part of one of our first conversations.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then you rolled up into your rock-like form, you rolled around the dance floor, and we both got kicked out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
Good times.
But Frozen, it has a really interesting story. It has good characters, and it's got those jams. Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes.
The one about stuffing your face and opening the gates is good.
Hang in there, Joan.
You've got
that's a nice moment.
You've got Totally Gonna Make Sweet Love.
That's what it's called.
That's
totally.
what it's called.
All the kids go around singing that.
Love is an open door.
Love. Oh yeah.
Obviously you've got Let It Go.
Gonna make some sweet love.
Gonna make some fucking love
to the woman that I just met. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's how it is. And then
Prince
you've got
Superhands of the Southern Isles.
Obviously you've got Let It Go.
Yeah.
Let it go. I don't want to live anymore. That was the original lyrics, and they realised it was too deep, too dark for the song, so they had to, mix it around a bit.
This is never going to be on every Christmas compilation henceforth if we don't sanitize it a little bit.
If we don't get rid of the suicidal messaging of this movie. But obviously that is the number one jam. You've got a bit of a fixer-upper. They cut the shred metal song from the evil Hans Gruber type.
Yeah.
Where he was like, I'm an evil motherfucker. I'm going to usurp your kingdom.
Is that right? Did he have a song planned?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I could have seen that happening. Where he gets.
I would have loved it.
Yeah. After he is going to give her the true love's kiss, and then he doesn't, and everyone's like, "Oh, shock horror! He's the bad guy." He then should have had like a Enter Sandman style ballad, like rock ballad. He just jumped up.
I'm gonna commit treason.
That would have been so good. Genuinely would have been awesome.
Yeah, it would have been great. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen.
The closest thing you get to that are the alternate versions of the songs of Frozen 2 that play over the credits, but we'll get to that.
But it's great though, isn't it, Frozen? I know people hate on it a lot, but I think it's genuinely a wonderful little animated movie.
Good. I'm very, very glad, because I was all ready for you to start tearing it apart. But, it's one of those things that is everywhere, and I think if a thing is everywhere and you don't like it or don't get it or feel that it's not for you, you're just like, oh, come on. And I'm sure a lot of people our age think that it's just a kid's film, but which it is. So, you do have to go into it thinking, okay, this is a kid's film, but, enjoy it, man. Why not,
Yeah, it's got fun little moments. It's got moments of action, They get chased by wolves that they then brutally maim.
Yep.
There's a big snowman who tries to murder them.
And says, go away. In a very funny way.
Yeah. Which is great.
Actually, no, he says it in like a really depressed way, doesn't he? It's like, go away.
And then you've got Olaf is obviously he's a creepy little SOB, but he's also very funny. So when he's walking along and goes, oh no, I've been impaled.
I thought you would enjoy that. When I watched this, I was thinking, I bet that's the moment that Rob enjoys.
Yeah, and I do. I enjoy the little Olaf quirks when he says, who's your stinky friend and who's the reindeer or something like that.
Who's the funky looking donkey?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's great. And he's got the sweetest line of dialogue where he says, "Some people are worth melting for." And so he ticks all the boxes, doesn't he? He's got his own little jammy song where he wonders what it's like to be a snowman in summer.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it's
so a little jazzy, jaunty break from the action. I think it comes at the perfect time in the film, right?
Yeah. And so overall, I think Frozen, it's a very clever, very refined animated movie that shows that Disney had learnt from what Shrek was doing several years earlier in terms of circumventing the traditional fantasy movie for kids and instead doing something a little bit different. And you've seen it work in other properties as well, like How to Train Your Dragon is another really good one that mixes around that format. But what was refreshing was seeing Disney take on what was going to be one of their most highly anticipated movies and then actually do a little bit of that in it. And it's not radical, you know, this isn't them going, oh, let's just really destroy what we've built up to this point. You know, it's still a story about princesses and magic and love.
It's not Disney's Lenin overthrows the bourgeoisie, is it?
No,
which is what I want. Sorry, I'm following too many like Marxist meme accounts now. That's basically all that's on my Instagram, and I'm really enjoying it.
I mean, you've got to do that. I've primarily been following recently Garfield remix comics.
Oh yeah.
So things where it's like the last panel of every Garfield comic is replaced with one specific panel of him being thrown through a window or things like that. And it never stops being funny. But yeah, it's not it's not reinventing the wheel here, but they do enough to make people recognize that they are able to adapt with the times. And I think that's part of the reason why this film has been liked by adults as much as it has by kids, because it tells a good story, but it's also clever, and it also gives a few nods to the audience to say, yeah, we know what we're doing. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We know that we can accept that Shrek exists and is funny primarily because it makes fun of what we've been doing for the last 60 years. And we can learn to adapt a little bit to it.
Yeah. And we don't need to involve Eddie Murphy in any way.
No, we've got Josh Gad to be the strongly voiced, animated, cute character. We don't need him. But instead, you know, they do have their little mascots. So obviously Olaf was the big one for this movie, but then you've also got the troll people as well.
I love Sven. Sven's my guy.
Sven is great.
And there's a baby Sven as well at the beginning. You know, like everyone's all, oh, Baby Yoda this, Baby Yoda that now. What about baby Sven? He was a baby before there were any babies.
Do you want to know Baby Yoda's real name?
I know Baby Yoda's real name. I haven't even seen The Mandalorian, but everyone's referring to Baby Yoda as something else now on the internet. Fuck that. Baby Yoda is called Baby Yoda. Shut up.
Stupid
nerds.
I watched the episode and I still refer to him as Baby Yoda.
Good.
You can't call him his real name. His real name is Baby Yoda, motherfuckers.
Oh, you were going to tell me that his real name is Baby Yoda.
No, but that's his true name. That's his true name. But I was going to ask if you wanted to know his name, but yeah, I won't say it since you don't want to know, in case there's any listeners who don't know and don't want it ruined for them.
Oh, is it like a spoiler that his name is a name?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. You don't. It's a moment of them finding out about the backstory of Baby Yoda, which is that he is secretly the Sith Lord who is behind the destruction of the Jedi. He's actually Palpatine. Right,
okay, yeah, I knew it. Does that mean Rey's going to come up at some point as well?
Yeah.
It just pops up 20 episodes of The Mandalorian later. There's all this cool stuff happens, and then Rey just pops up at the end and goes, hey, Palpatine had sex. And then just runs off.
Baby Yoda just turns up they're going to do an extended cut of The Rise of Skywalker to try and fix all the absolute shite in it, which is going to be impossible because that movie was fucking
Please refer back to the episode we did this time last year for our thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's one of those things where people have started vaguely whispering about all of this cut content from that film, which could salvage it. Same way... In cuck content, yeah. Where they've in the same way that, you know, Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a thing.
Oh yeah, and now they've spent 50 million remaking it.
Yes, where they've been adding all of these additional bits, which is great for fans of it, and fair play to you guys if you wanted to see Zack Snyder's vision for Justice League. Not so great for those of us who think, man, they could have put that 50 million into making an entirely new movie. And that
maybe something fun. Original.
That would have been fun to see them make an original movie rather than add 50 million into an existing movie that not many people liked that much.
Maybe something with cute reindeer and little snowman guys and trolls rolling around and singing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, people have been whispering, oh, maybe they'll do the same thing with The Rise of Skywalker, ignoring the fact that The Rise of Skywalker's problems all stem from its terrible, terrible script and plot. You can't fix that by doing reshoots and adding in bits of cut content. That doesn't work. But yeah, in this version that they're supposedly going to make or whatever, at the end, Baby Yoda just pops up at the end and is like, hey, Rey, I'm your granddad. That means that I fucked your mum.
Yeah, it's like that tape of Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross Saxgate. It's like that. Baby Yoda exactly. And Rey just on the phone to Andrew Sachs.
I'm your granddad. I fucked your grandma.
That's a very old reference. I wonder how many people remember that. When was that? Like 2008? I don't even know.
Just awful human beings.
Yeah. And now Andrew Sachs is dead, so
yeah,
we should all feel bad.
Exactly. But anyway, none of that has anything to do with Frozen. I don't know how we got on. Oh, because you were saying that Olaf. No, Baby Sven.
Baby Sven is cuter than Baby Yoda,
which is a complete lie, Paddy. You're a fucking liar.
But Baby Sven just didn't have enough screen time. He's only in the first minute.
Yeah. But there's there's Sven, there's the little troll dudes. There's lots of cute stuff that they could market, and obviously then they've got the songs. Which were smash hits, all of the toys.
It wouldn't work without the songs, would it?
Yeah, it's no surprise that this movie became $1 billion property because it's incredibly marketable in every way, shape and form. And the fact that it has I think part of the reason why is that it has an empowered and driven lead female character, which obviously, like, young girls who watch this were going to look up to and appreciate. You compare this to some of the other princesses in Disney's movies that obviously kids have loved as well, and there's a stark difference between this and any of the others, where again they were making those steps with Tangled, where in Tangled, have you seen Tangled?
Oh yeah, it's one of our faves, one of my wife's like all-time favorite films.
Yeah, where Rapunzel in that is very driven and determined, but then also
but there's also a goofy song with all the like hench lads in the tavern where they're singing about all the dreams they've got,
which is great.
It's so good.
I've got a dream.
Like everybody else, I've got a dream.
Yeah, that's a great song. And yeah, so obviously Rapunzel has that same kind of thing going for her, where she is driven, but equally the plot is kind of kicked off by Flynn.
Yeah.
And they kind of have this dual role where they're both. It's almost like an Aladdin and Jasmine rehash in Rapunzel, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a positive way because it works very well in Aladdin, and it works.
You can show her the world.
Yeah, exactly. And they work very well off each other. Whereas here they were doing something a bit different with Frozen in that, you've got that duo in terms of Anna and Kristoff together, but equally you've got Elsa doing her own thing. And I think that really spoke to a lot of the young kids who are watching this movie, that you have this character who's not dependent on the actions of other people to make her own decisions. And I think that really spoke to a lot of people, and that's part of the reason why this movie was such a big hit and why Elsa costumes continue to be so popular at Halloween time and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And a big credit for that has to go to Idina Menzel for the voice and the song as well. Because you just associate it with her, and she is an incredible talent.
Yeah, and the cast in general, I think, is perfect for this. Kristen Bell. Shout out to Kristen Bell for being great in everything.
Yeah.
And she's brilliant as Anna in these movies. Also, forgetting Sarah Marshall. Lest we forget how great that movie is.
Another film starring Russell Brand, along with Saxgate, the movie.
Yes, yeah. Have you watched The Good Place?
Yeah, I saw the first season and then need to catch up with the others. But yeah, I thought it was really good. brilliant concept, really well executed as well, because it's the kind of thing that's very high concept that could go wrong really easily, so the writing has to be really tight, and it really works.
Yes, yeah.
Largely because of Ted Danson, actually. But
well, that again, it's one of those things where it's very clever and very well written for what could be a quite complex idea. And yeah, it's really great. So yeah, we love her, but also, you know, Jonathan Groff as Christoph, Josh Gad,
is awesome.
Alan,
he's King George in Hamilton. He was the guy who was good and then bad in Glee. You know, got a lot of time for him.
Alan Tudyk as well turns up.
As
and
the
Kieran,
Duke of Weaseltown.
Yep, and Kieran Hines as well. We love a bit of Kieran Hines. Do you know Kieran Hines?
The name rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you. Fill me in.
So he is Rock Grandpa in this, but then he's been in all sorts. So he was a big character in Game of Thrones.
Of course.
Very, very memorable character in Game of Thrones. He played Mance Rayder, who is the leader of the wildlings who live north of the Wall, who are meant to be sort of the equivalent of the Picts or the Scots, basically.
Right, yeah. I was going to say, it sounds like the Scottish.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But also he's in The Terror. He's in all sorts, basically, and he's a very, very established, very excellent actor, and he's the Grandad Rockman.
Very good troll dad.
Yeah. I love Troll Dad. So it's really well put together, really memorable, lovely locations, and a decent plot as well. I think the plot of Frozen works very well, and it's this kind of adventure where you have a clear understanding of this person was told to fear who she was and fear her potential. This backfired massively. She's setting out and recognizing who she is, but she also has to come to terms with her responsibilities and come to understand her responsibilities and go sure-footed towards them to become a better person. And I think that's a really strong, powerful message, that you can become your own individual, but also you need to recognize with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. Almost. Hey,
and you need to love yourself, Spider-Man.
Yeah, you need to love yourself. You need to recognize yourself, and you need to also care for the people around you. Great message. Which isn't the message of Frozen 2.
No.
So let's move on, shall we? From Frozen
the message
to Frozen
2 is, let's have a cool fantasy adventure with some reindeer and some spirits and stuff.
The message
and a water horse.
The message of Frozen 2 is your powers come from some weird conspiracy / your bloodline, which have we established, calling back to our Rise of Skywalker thing again. Sorry, I fucking hate that story trope. Why can't we let people with magic powers or special powers just have that? Why do we have to bring eugenics into every fantasy story?
But there's no Palpatine figure, is there?
No, there's no Palpatine figure, but it's still, it turns out that your mum was secretly, you know, this descendant of these magical peoples, and that's why you have your magic powers. But look, this all calls back to a conspiracy with your granddad, aka Palpatine.
Oh, so the granddad is Palpatine, the
granddad is Palpatine,
the one who is going to murder the forest people.
Yes, exactly.
Right, okay.
So it all again comes back to heritage and bloodlines, and that really annoys me, because
where else do you think they could have taken it for a sequel?
They could have just had, you've got these random magic powers from somewhere. Who gives a shit? Let's just have an adventure. Like, why do they have to call back to? Why do they have to call back to that when the message of the original movie is recognize your own potential and live up to it wherever you come from? Whereas instead they've really specifically come down to, you all loved Elsa and you really related to her. Well, guess what? You're not a fucking princess descended from magic beings. Fuck you, little kids. You ain't shit.
All the kids cried when they were watching it because of that.
You're more similar to Christoph, who we don't know what to do with in this movie, so we can fuck around with a reindeer lover for his entire runtime.
But also gets a brilliant song.
He has a brilliant song, but he has nothing to do in this movie. And what really annoys me about Frozen 2, and I'm sorry, I think I established already in a previous episode, I don't like Frozen 2. And rewatching it did not make me like it anymore. It might have even made me like it a little bit less because I had more time to think about the thematic elements of it. The first movie ends with the unity of her realizing, okay, I am my own individual, but I have these responsibilities and these people that I love and these people that I care for. Because part of Elsa's story arc is, I'm scared of taking on responsibility for the kingdom. Oh, no, wait, I can do that. I can do whatever. I can do everything because I believe in myself.
Because I'm the queen.
Because I believe in myself. I can become queen because I believe in myself. Whereas this time around she goes, yeah, fuck that. Hey, Anna, do you want to take over the kingdom for me? I'm going to go fuck off in the woods. And that's where the movie
wouldn't you
ends.
fuck off to the woods if you got the chance?
No, they're weird people who have sex with reindeer. So that's what I established.
It's a little outside of nature's laws.
Yeah, exactly.
As it says in the song.
Yeah, precisely. So it really frustrates me that the original movie has this strong message around Elsa, and then the second film, because they didn't really know what to do. I'm fairly certain part of the reason that Frozen 2 exists is because the movie is $1 billion property and they needed to make
obviously.
a second one. You very rarely see them make a sequel. In fact, it hardly ever happens. They very rarely make a sequel to a Disney film that gets released in theaters. It's normally dump it onto TV or dump it onto video/DVD.
Yeah.
And
no disrespect to The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, and Aladdin 2, The Return of Jafar, but I wouldn't have paid to see that in the cinema.
I would.
Whereas getting it in VHS from Sainsbury's when I was off from school sick with the flu, hell yes.
I would offer all disrespect to those movies. But obviously they realised, hey, we can make massive bank on this outside of just making little TV shorts. We can make a sequel. But then they realised, oh, wait, we need to write a sequel. How do we do that with these characters when it all resolves?
And the shorts are good too.
The shorts are good, yeah. But instead they resolved everything so well in the first story. So, you had Elsa recognising self-belief and confidence and loving oneself, and then also recognising her responsibilities and living up to them. The scenes at the end of the first Frozen show a happy town, a happy kingdom with her in control of it. That's great. You've got Anna and Kristoff growing, recognising, hey, I can be around other people. I don't have to be alone in the woods with my reindeer, which is what lots of people whisper about when I'm around, and probably why I got kicked out of my ice family. Anna realising...
that's not dealt with, is it? That should have been the sequel.
That should have been the sequel. Anna then recognising, hey, I shouldn't fall in love with everyone I meet for the first time, and instead there's this guy who genuinely cares for me and I genuinely care for him. That's great. She's learned that message. Olaf's learned that sun is bad for snowmen and the summer is bad for snowmen, but it's okay because he's got a little sparkle over him, so it's all fine.
His own personal flurry.
Yeah. And so everything was resolved. So then how do they make a sequel without damaging that? And that's a question that they didn't answer because every single thing that they did with those characters damages that.
But does it matter?
Yeah, it does, because the movie's not very good. It doesn't make Frozen 1 any worse. Frozen 1 still works really well as a standalone piece. This isn't like Rise of Skywalker making the entirety of Star Wars worse through its bad plot points.
Ruined all Star Wars for you forever.
Well, it kind of has, because when I think back to, spoiler alert for the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine's still alive, which means that Darth Vader's sacrifice at the end of Return of the Jedi doesn't fucking matter anymore.
I don't think that's a spoiler, because his face is on the poster.
Well, yeah, it's not a spoiler, is it? But it means that the sacrifice...
just every time you see him, even in the prequels, when he's like young but not that young, sort of middle-aged silver fox diplomat Palpatine, you're thinking, he's fucking.
He's fucking everyone.
He fucks.
Palpatine fucks. Yeah. But yeah, so it goes back, and by having him be alive, it ruins the sacrifice and the redemption of Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, which is a bigger insult to Star Wars than any of the prequels, than anything in The Last Jedi. It's just a really fucking horrible thing to do from a storytelling perspective. But that doesn't happen in Frozen 2. Frozen 2 doesn't undermine Frozen 1. Everything that happens in Frozen 1 is a nice self-contained story, and this is just a little additional shit. It's like you've done a really nice poo, and then there's just that little bit at the end. That's what Frozen 2 is. Because
sometimes the little bit at the end's better. It's the icing on the cake. Sometimes it builds upon what you've already done and makes it better.
No, this does not do that.
More pleasing.
So Elsa's story is, I need to understand who I am. You came to terms with who you were in the first movie. I think it would have been better if someone was like, do you want to know who you are? Do you want to know your history? And she said, no, I know who I am. This is my sister who I love. This is my family who I love.
Do you want to go on This Is Your Life? No.
Yeah, I don't want to go on This Is Your Life. I want to go get drunk with my sister, is what I wanted from this, or what thematically would have made sense from this movie. But instead she goes off on this journey, which ties into her understanding who she is, again, which is what the first movie was about. Anna and Christoph's relationship is on the rocks for no reason, and they can't really speak to one another, which makes
even though
sense.
I really like Frozen 2, that is the most annoying part, is that every time he tries to propose to her, she suddenly becomes like neurotic and paranoid, and it's just like, that's not who she is at all.
No,
really annoying.
no, it doesn't make sense for either of their characters, and basically it undoes both of their character arcs from the first movie as well.
And you're like, are they trying to sort of clumsily parody that stuff from romantic comedies? Because if they are, it's not really working.
No, they're not. They're just doing it, which is a big problem. Olaf,
just like Palpatine.
Olaf is a beautiful king in this film. He has that amazing scene where he's explaining the plot to the Arendelle soldiers and the reindeer fuckers. And he's explaining the events of Frozen 1. And they're saying, well, and there's that great bit where he goes, well, at least they've still got their parents to look out for them. Their parents are dead.
Their parents are dead.
It's so funny. I laughed out loud the first time I saw this, and I laughed out loud again this second time that I watched it. Olaf is a joy in this film. He is the redeeming quality of this movie, and I really like him again.
And he gets the little jaunty song.
He does,
understanding who he is.
He does. If you've not seen Frozen 2, the plot is there's these elements, and they've been unleashed by Elsa accidentally. She's got to go off on an adventure and find out about these elements.
Yeah, but she was hearing a voice before that. She did it because she was hearing the voice.
Yeah.
The nice singing voice.
Yeah, the nice singing voice that then becomes a refrain. Comes a refrain through several of the songs, which is a nice touch. Musically, this film is good. I wouldn't say it's as good as Frozen 1. I know lots of people say that Into the Unknown is better. Those people are wrong.
I prefer it.
You're wrong. But
I think part of that is that not just that the songs from Frozen 1 have been so overplayed all the time, and even though they're good, it's like they're everywhere, and there's so much a part of like people's consciousness that songs that are like that but building upon it in a new and exciting way just seem better to me.
And that's what it comes down to. I think a lot of people have said that, but that's only because they're sick of hearing Let It Go, because that song continues to be everywhere. But it's not as good as the first one. It's very good. It's very good. Don't get me wrong. The musically, this is still an excellent film. And if you want some bops, there's nowhere worse. There's nowhere better to look than here. You know, it's a very good film for those bops.
And there's a very good version of it by Panic at the Disco that plays over the credits, followed up by a version of the Reindeer Song by Weezer. So you know, nothing wrong with that.
I'd like to hear Slipknot's version of Love is an Open
the Olaf
Door
song when I am older.
Love is an open door with you.
I could actually see that. Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
We finish each other's sandwiches, and then they smash on. They smash on a drum.
Clown hits a bin.
So anyway, where was I? Right. So they set off on this adventure, and then they find the reindeer people, who are all like, we're the mysterious people who live in the woods. But also, there's some soldiers from Arendelle there. So it turns out that there's this big conspiracy with Elsa's granddad.
Yeah, then there's a flashback to them with their parents and their mum singing them a song and their dad telling them something about how the reindeer people fucked them or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened. But all of that goes on.
The dad who looks like he just walked off the set of The Crown.
Precisely. And all of that happens, and basically then it's all about finding these spirits. So you've got a cute little salamander, which is underused and is just there to sell toys. You've got the wind spirit, which is just a gust of wind, which doesn't really do anything. Then you've got lovely water horse, which is fine.
The magical horse.
Yeah, the magical horse.
2 weeks in a row we're talking about a magical horse.
Yeah, we got another magical horse here.
Next week it'll be Seabiscuit.
Exactly.
And then every episode after that, we'll switch over to being a podcast about BoJack Horseman.
Oh man, I would really love that. We should do
which would actually be great.
We should do a BoJack. I'm sure there already is a BoJack podcast there, I'm sure. And then there's the big rock giants who are not as cute as the little stone trolls, and they're the earth spirits, and they're really angry, and they are,
but they don't talk.
No,
unlike the snow giant man who says "go away."
They just go rah. But it turns out that actually there's a fifth spirit, and that fifth spirit is Elsa, because she can't just be a random person who knows how to use magic. She has to be descended from magic users and also be the magical fifth spirit, the fifth element, as it were.
Be the literal bridge between the elements and the human world.
She is the fifth.
Which I like that, because that's like a really lofty fantasy epic thing in a kid's film. I think that's what I really like about Frozen 2, is that because it's like a kid's film, but it feels to me like I'm watching something like Lord of the Rings or whatever, because it's like set up in that way. And I just thought that was really enjoyable and not what I expected.
I like it because the plot's a complete rip-off of the movie The Fifth Element.
Yes, that is true.
Which is exactly what they're doing here.
Directed by Jean-Luc Godard.
Yeah. By Luc Besson. But that's what they're doing here, and I kind of understand your point there, that it feels a bit more like a fantasy epic, and I kind of like that as well. But I don't feel as though they really do enough with it. And speaking of Lord of the Rings, between Christmas and New Year, we in the household, the Gordon household, have rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, sweet!
And
did you do the extended version?
No, because we do not have that time to do that.
Hey, me and Adam did those in one day once.
Oh, really? Wow.
When we were young men.
I do.
It's 12 hours. There's 2 discs for each film, and each one is like 2 hours, so 6 discs, 2 hours. 12 hours.
I remember that the first one's only about 3 hours, the extended cut, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's doable. And you watch it, and you're like, yeah, that was fine. And then you look at the others, and it's like 4 hours. 4.5 hours. This is what we've got to watch now.
There's another battle. Come on. And show me the spider.
And bits of it work really well. Like, I think in the first one, you've got Galadriel giving out the gifts and having more of the time to talk with each of the individual characters of the Fellowship, which adds a lot. In the final one...
And there's a lot of Hugo Weaving furrowing his brow.
Yeah, and going, I'm not sure about this. And then in the final one, you've got the mouth of Sauron, who's the really creepy dude who looks like he's wearing a Slipknot mask. And I love that scene. Yeah. That's really good. And they also didn't add in all the nonsense that I thought they might, like Tom Bombadil is still nowhere to be seen.
Oh, the nerds want that so badly.
I'm so glad Tom Bombadil doesn't turn up in the extended cuts.
Tom Bombadil is a dick. Tom Bombadil drinks real ale and talks to you about it endlessly.
Tom Bombadil talks all about how his tech startup is going to disrupt public transport. That's who Tom Bombadil is.
Yeah, he's the Elon Musk of the Middle Earth.
That's exactly who he is. But yeah, and so I kind of see the parallels here, but as someone who really loves kids fantasy stuff, or who used to really love kids fantasy stuff,
when you were a kid,
when I was a kid, and I still love it now, I'm thinking of things like Earthsea, like His Dark Materials, like The Hobbit.
Did you watch His Dark Materials recently?
No, I still haven't watched it. I've heard it's very good.
Have you even seen the first series?
No, I haven't.
It's really good. It's really, really good. Very faithful to the books. There was one thing they changed in the second series recently that I didn't like. Other than that, it's really, really good. And like the role of the Magisterium is a bit more expanded and stuff. And there's a few kind of key changes, but it's really, really well done. And I think they've really pulled it off.
Has the second series, does that cover the subtle knife?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
But interestingly, the first series kind of weaves in bits of the subtle knife, so I won't spoil it for you, but it follows Will and Lyra's story at the same time.
Oh, that is interesting.
So the second series begins when they meet. So yeah, it's really good.
That is interesting. I will have to watch it. Does a polar bear...
And it has a banging theme tune as well.
Does a polar bear rip off another polar bear's jaw? Because I remember that from the books when I was reading them as a kid and thinking, oh, that's quite graphic.
Yes, that happens.
Oh, dear.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda's there and he goes, what?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I do need to watch it. But when I think of... That's the thing, is I think of those kind of stories when I was a kid. Like I said, Earthsea is the one that I've always loved the most.
I've been trying to reread it recently. I'm on my big Wheel of Time reread as well, but I'm dropping in bits of Earthsea as well. So I already read before I go to bed. I always try and read fiction before going to bed instead of looking at bullshit on my phone.
Oh, that's good. I am currently reading a book called Horror Store, which is like a ghost story set in IKEA. And it's very...
That sounds great.
It's very fun. So there's been all these weird things going on at this IKEA knockoff. And the manager is making a couple of people stay behind after hours to find out what's going on, and it turns out that there's been ghostly shit happening, and it's good fun, and the whole thing is sort of framed that the artwork and the design of the book is like an IKEA catalogue. So between each chapter, it's got a different product and a little blurb about it and a little blueprint and things like that. Which is it's very well done. I'm liking the Horror Store quite a lot. I'll send you a link to it at some point. Please do. It's good. But yeah, that's what I think of. I think of things like Earthsea, and I don't think Frozen 2 goes quite far enough. Partly because they don't know what to do with all their characters. And Elsa's story, I have my issues with Elsa's story because a lot of it revolves around kind of undoing and redoing what happened in the first movie. And I really don't like the fact that at the end she doesn't go back to Arendelle, because it seems as though that's kind of taking away the responsibility aspect of the first film, which I don't necessarily think is the right message for her character. But at least her adventure is exciting and interesting, and you've got all those nice visuals of her with the other elements and things like that. But the issue is they don't know what to do with anybody else. No. And that's the real problem with Frozen 2 is they don't...
I think I get really swept up in the visuals and the aesthetic of it and the adventure and the songs and all that stuff. That's enough for me, you know?
Yeah.
I subconsciously know that they don't know what to do with Kristoff and they don't know what to do with Olaf apart from to give him his song about growing up, which is very nice. But yeah, no, I think you're right, but I also don't care.
Whereas, I do care. And I think even worse than that, I think, is they don't really know what to do with Anna apart from get her to do kind of what she did in the first movie and be this grounding presence for Elsa. Yeah. And you think, well... And
to do a weepy rubbish song after she thinks Elsa's dead.
Yeah, and you kind of think, well, do something more with her. She could be much more in this story than in the first one. The first one is all about Elsa's powers and, you know, Anna is that grounding influence. Maybe this story is more about Anna, or maybe it's about them all working cooperatively to sort out this threat in the same way. I don't know if you ever watched The Last Airbender, not the terrible movie, but the original animated show.
No, I always meant to. It's one that's sort of up there in the anime canon, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's very good. And sorry to I'll put on my nerd glasses 1 second. And, excuse me, Paddy, but it's
I'm looking forward to hearing about Tom Bombadil.
It's actually not anime because it's not made by a Japanese studio. It's actually made.
That is correct.
American
My
studio.
apologies.
I'm afraid to tell you. I'm just going to now send my 10,000 Twitter followers to go and send you hate messages for getting that fact wrong. I'm afraid. I'm sorry, but. We have to really gatekeep our community like this to stop anyone else from getting involved and liking animated shows.
I'm sorry if you are offended that I'm a massive racist.
I'm sorry if you're offended.
There's my apology. Done. Let's move
on. But
yes, I did know that. Sorry.
And that show does a really good job of having all of its characters play a productive part in the adventure, even the ones that don't have magic powers. And here they think, okay, we've got Elsa. Oh, she can do the magic. That's fine. What do we do with everybody else? Not really sure. And so they don't really do anything. And then they add in these additional characters, which also don't really do anything. So I remember in the PR for this movie that came out, all of the promotional stuff, there was the young reindeer loving girl who was everywhere in the promotional stuff. And you thought, oh, who's this mysterious new character? Well, she's barely in it. And then none of them are really in it and none of them really do anything. And you kind of think, well, maybe they could have joined Elsa on the adventure instead. And then
I would have loved a reindeer adventure. I think there's enough good reindeer content in this film, don't get me wrong, but I love reindeer and I want a reindeer adventure.
Yeah, and I just think that
Did I tell you I ate reindeer a lot when I was in the Arctic?
Is it nice? Is it tasty?
really tasty.
I take it it's a bit
like reindeer meatballs every
I take it it's
delicious.
a bit like venison.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think they could have done more with the material they had. And so the plot isn't necessarily wrong. I do have my issues with it thematically, but that core plot of there's these weird elements, Elsa has to go off and sort out what's going on with the help of everybody else. Turns out that she's related to it in some way. They solve it. Everything's okay again. That's a fine plot. I think that's got a lot of potential there. But I just think the way that they delivered it isn't strong enough.
And do you not think there's a lot of potential in the kind of exploring who you are in terms of your past and your parents and that kind of thing? Because their parents are dead. They died in a ship. They don't know that much about it. And then they find out that they died because they were searching for the source of Elsa's magic. So she feels like it's her fault. And then she has to come to terms with that by riding the magic horse. I like that part of it.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that as well. I just don't like the fact that it all ties into this destiny nonsense. And I think if you're doing shows...
But it is a Disney film.
It is a Disney film, but Aladdin didn't have a destiny, did he? He was a...
Of course he did. He's the diamond in the rough.
He's the diamond in the rough, but he's not secretly the king of some other place, is he?
He is. He's the Prince Ali of Ababwa.
But that's what I mean, is he's this diamond in the rough, but he didn't come from heritage. He is just this guy. And I know that they added the King of Thieves, who's Aladdin's dad, in the third straight to DVD movie or whatever shit came out. Who gives a fuck?
I haven't seen that, but Claire described the plot to me and it sounded awful.
It's fucking awful. Terrible.
Aladdin's dad.
Even
the film nobody wanted.
Even young idiot Rob, who loved everything to do with Aladdin, took one look at that and thought, no, I do not want this in my life. But that's the kind of thing is that works great. You've then got...
Is that better or worse than the Prince of Persia movie?
I've got a confession to make here. Prince of Persia movie is actually really good. And
is it not even a shit piece? Is it actually good?
It's actually good. It's got its issues, namely that for a movie set in Persia about the Prince of Persia, everyone in it is white apart from Ben Kingsley. That's a big problem.
Of course, if it was going to be anyone, it would be Ben Kingsley as well. That's exactly his kind of film.
Yeah, and so that is a big problem, and I don't think you can sweep over it. But in terms of it being a fun adventure movie, it's actually pretty damn good. I stand the Prince of Persia movie. It is much better than people give it credit for.
Is there romance in it? Can we talk about it?
We could talk about it. Yeah, let's put that on the list to talk about at some point this year.
Yeah.
Because it is actually quite good fun, and it's kind of a shit piece, but equally it's enjoyable and it's not really stupid. So it works pretty well. It's one of the better video game movies, I suppose. But yeah, you're right that having a look at their past and coming to terms with it, I think is something interesting that this movie could have done, but I don't think it did it in a satisfactory way. And I think it all rounded it out around this destiny nonsense that kind of undermined the sacrifice of the parents as well. And just made it feel a bit cheap, and it made it feel a bit lazy, which is exactly what the first Frozen wasn't.
Yeah, I guess it was a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
See, I went into it, I think, with an open mind, just expecting a bit of cheap fun, and that's exactly what it was.
I did not. I went into it demanding that I hated this film and nitpicked every moment. No, I went into it. I went into it thinking, oh yeah, people have said this is pretty good. Hopefully, it's pretty good, and then not enjoying it. And I think it, like I said, it's not awful. It doesn't undermine what the first Frozen did, but I don't feel the need to ever watch this movie again. And I don't think it's a very good film. Particularly when
it's also special to me because we went to see it with Eric at Baby Cinema last year, and he seemed to actually pay attention to it, and that was really nice. And when the Panic at the Disco version came on over the credits, he started screaming. So, but in a good way, he was trying to sing along.
Okay.
As only a baby can do.
As opposed to just crying relentlessly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you compare this to something like Brave, which I know is a Pixar movie, but it's
a fair comparison.
Yeah. Brave has a similar message about empowerment and responsibility, and I think it does a really good job of it.
And has Billy Connolly. So.
Exactly. You've got Moana, which is an absolute gem of a film. Or Tangled, as previously mentioned. And I think all of them stand up a lot more than Frozen 2 does. And I don't know what Disney is doing next. Do you know what Disney is doing next? 'Cause
there's a thing with Lin-Manuel Miranda. They did like a little teaser. I think it's called Encanta. It's like a Latin music-based film, I believe. They did a very short teaser trailer for it recently. I think it comes out next year or this year. I think. I might be wrong. But obviously it's going to be great.
So is he going to act in it or direct or...
He seems like the kind of guy who writes the theme tune and sings the theme tune. So I think he's going to be all over it.
Write the theme tune and sing the theme tune.
No, he's definitely directing it, but I don't know what he's... whether he'll be in it.
Okay, I'm just looking it up. So the film is centered on a young girl and her family in Colombia who all have magical powers. Sadly, the young girl has no powers. That sounds cool.
Right.
I like that as an idea. Which, I think that could work pretty well. I'm excited to hear more about this movie.
Yeah. But Pixar's new one, Soul, have you watched that?
Haven't watched it yet, no.
It's really good. We watched it on Christmas Day, which is the day that it came out, and I'm sure you're aware it has a score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Yes, I am aware of this.
And the score is really good.
Yeah. Did you watch the other one that they did this year, Onward?
Yeah, I loved Onward.
Is that good? In
terms of, being like having that fantasy epic element, but for kids, it absolutely nailed it for me, and it was... it sort of sent it up as well. It was a kind of a send up of that kind of Dungeons and Dragons style story, whilst also having like real heart. It was really good. I loved it.
Oh, cool! Because it got pretty mixed reviews, didn't it, when it came out?
It did, yeah. I think that's like it really, really goes for it on the kind of high fantasy tropes, and a lot of that stuff I think really goes over people's heads. Like there's a whole bit with a gelatinous cube and stuff.
Oh, amazing!
Which I think people find quite bizarre. But I think you'd like it.
Yeah, cool. I will watch it.
We could talk about it sometime.
Yeah,
because it's about brotherly love.
Oh, there we go. That's sufficient. So yeah, maybe that's something that we could talk about. I do have a movie already picked for next time.
Yeah. This is all stuff we'll get around to, but Soul, I really recommend Soul as well. It's a really, really interesting concept, and it goes in directions that you don't expect it to go. It's a bit like Inside Out in terms of trying to explore things about the mind and the body that people... Did you see Inside Out?
Oh, I love Inside Out.
Yeah. So Soul is like Inside Out 2.0. It
cool.
kind of
okay.
builds on it in an interesting way, or takes that in a different direction, I guess. Anyway, you'll see what I mean when you watch it, but it's quite out there. But I like it. I think it's very ambitious and very bold, and I enjoyed it a lot. Oh,
cool. Okay, yeah, I look forward to that. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to say about Frozen before we round out?
No, just that it's good and it's nice, and enjoy it because everything's hellish and it's a nice thing, even though it's a $1 billion property for a reason. It's nice.
Do you like the little snowmen that they added to Frozen 2?
Yes.
And yeah, I've forgotten what they're called, but the little happy snowmen that run around.
Yeah. Love those guys. I don't know what they're called either.
Yeah, but they're fun, aren't they? They're cute. They're a nice little marketing tool to use and to sell to kids.
Yeah.
But they're fun.
Which is
they're
ultimately
fun.
what it's all about.
Yeah.
But this is the good end of that, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So I've got a little bit of trivia.
All right.
So, according to Jennifer Lee, who's obviously one of the directors, Anna is 18 years old in the events of Frozen 1, while Elsa and Kristoff are 21 and Hans is 23.
Oh, all right.
So they are youngish in here. There's also a hidden Mickey Mouse doll in one of the shelves in the trading
there's always
post.
One, isn't there?
Shout out to Big Summer Blowout family. They're really funny.
Wandering Oaken.
Yeah. Big Summer
There's
Blowout.
people think that he's gay because there's like a man in there with all the kids and he goes, "Yoo-hoo family." But it's never been confirmed by Disney.
Blatantly not, because Disney would never put an outwardly gay character in anything for fear of marketing.
Still waiting for that
cowards. You hear me, Disney? You cowards.
I know you listen every week, Will.
You told us LeFou was going to be gay and he wasn't, you fucking dicks.
Yeah, where was the gay sex scene in Beauty and the
Where
Beast?
was the uncensored gay sex scene in Beauty and the Beast? It does annoy me. It really annoys me the way that they are manipulative like this, because they often play up to the idea that Elsa might not be straight as well, which is something that a lot of fans have picked up on and kind of ridden with that idea. And Disney doesn't deny it, and they're like, oh, maybe, who knows? And then they never do anything with it because they're afraid, because they don't want to upset the conservative right in America, and more importantly, worldwide markets, which is the main reason why they don't do it.
Sure.
But it's cynical and it's cowardly, and put gay people in your films, you cowards.
The only way to solve it is to have like Frozen 3 lesbian reindeer killers or whatever.
Is that lesbians who kill reindeers or people who kill lesbian reindeers?
Bit of both.
Because the second one would go down very well in places like Alabama.
Yeah. Is that what you meant by international markets?
That's what I meant by international markets. Also, obviously, you've got Alan Tudyk, who plays the Duke of Weselton. But then he's also Duke Weaseltown in Zootopia.
Ah, yes, that's right. Which is also a good film.
Which I've not seen, but I've heard is good.
Yeah, it's worth watching. It's not as good as Frozen or Frozen 2, but it's fun. It's quite goofy, quite silly.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. I need to get around.
It is about a cop, though.
Fucking cops.
A little bunny cop.
Bunny narc.
Yeah, it's basically how to be a narc, but be a cute bunny at the same time.
Be a narc.
But then there's some like evil experimenting on animal stuff that she busts, so it's not all bad.
Oh, okay.
Spoiler alert for Zootopia. I think that's what happens. I haven't seen it in a while.
I'll have to give it a watch. So that'll do for trivia. So how are we gonna rate this?
Let's see. How many years have your people been trapped in the mist? Or should we rate each one on its own?
Yeah, so if we use Trapped in the Mist for the first one, and then how many superfluous brothers do you have which lead you to try and commit treason?
That's good. So that way this is Frozen 1.
Frozen 1, yeah.
Yeah. Let's give it a 16. Let's go high, It's good. It's a kids' film that stands up to many, many rewatches. It's good for all the family, and I feel like the more I keep watching it, as the more my son grows up, he's going to enjoy it, and it's going to become a fixture in our family. He loves his Olaf, it's like it's a special film.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I'm going to go one higher with the 17. I think this is a great movie, fully deserving of the praise that it's had. We love a bit of Frozen. And then for Frozen 2, it's what was it? How many men are lost in the mist?
Yeah, how many years have your people been lost in the mist since there was the big battle and the spirits got angry and put the mist in the forest and stuff?
Okay, so how many years for you?
I'm gonna go just one lower and go 15.
Oh, I say.
Just to acknowledge that, obviously Frozen 1 is Frozen and it's like this kind of big thing, but I still really, really like Frozen 2, and sometimes I think that it is better. But I think maybe that is just because I've seen Frozen 1 so many times.
Yeah.
So I can't necessarily always decide, but I'll go one lower just to reflect that.
Whereas I do not like this movie. The songs are good though. Olaf makes me laugh. Sometimes it's pretty, so it's going to get a 7 from me. But
that's quite low.
Story-wise, I think it's a real disappointment. So
you can't spell Olaf without laugh.
Exactly, or Olaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. It disappointed me. And it disappointed me again on the second watch. And I was hoping that maybe I'd just been in a bad mood the first time I saw it, but yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't like it. Come at me, internet. Come give me your hate messages and say, why do you hate this movie? How
the
dare
Frozen
you?
2 stands are going to come out.
How dare you? You've made little Olaf cry.
The reindeer people are going to be very upset.
Going to be furious with me. I don't like it at all, I'm afraid.
Tom Bombadil's going to come for you.
Tom Bombadil's going to come dancing his little dance. And yeah, that's all I really remember Tom Bombadil. He's basically God, and he dances a little jig and he smokes weed.
Yeah, a guy who sings and runs through some long grass, sings a jaunty song that goes on for 10 pages in italics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
Bullshit.
So, up next, we're in a new era, Paddy, by the time the next episode comes out. It's going to be 2021. It's going to be the future. But I think...
Oh, God. I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
But I think for the future, we also need to learn from the past, as well as looking to the future. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a movie set in the future, but that has the same plot as Frozen 2. And we're going to watch The Fifth Element, which has romance. It has loads of romance. So I feel justified in putting this.
Very good. Very good. I don't think I've seen it in about 15 years.
Yeah, I've not seen it
seen
it in a very long time myself. I remember that Tricky is in it, so it's blatantly the best movie of all time because Tricky's in it.
Yep. Tricky from Under the Cherry Moon.
Exactly.
The guy who says, "I'm a werewolf, bitch, kiss my ass."
Precisely.
Go back and listen to episode number 100 if you want to hear about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I really wanted to choose a movie that was set in 2021. But this isn't, and the movie. I
was going to say, is it set? It's not.
No.
That'd be amazing if it was.
There is a movie set in 2021 that I really wanted to speak about, but I don't think it's got sufficient romance in, which is Johnny Mnemonic. Have you ever watched Johnny Mnemonic?
I've never seen it. No, I'm vaguely aware of it.
I love that movie, but I don't think it's got sufficient romance to cover it off in this. But maybe I'll give it a rewatch and then maybe I'll pick it up at another time if it does. But I think unfortunately we can't pick that up.
All right, sounds good though.
Yeah, it's got Keanu Reeves and cyberpunk and hyper intelligent dolphins. I'm not even kidding.
I appreciate all of those things.
That is a major plot point in the film. Is hyper intelligent dolphins. It's great.
Sold.
Oh dear. Alrighty.
All right, 2021 is here. We hope you enjoy our show. Thank you for being with us through 2020. We really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoyed Frozen and Frozen 2. And if you didn't watch them, go and watch them because they're nice and enjoyable. And let yourself enjoy a thing, because life is hard.
It is. Life is tough. It's full of terrifying things. Go and play in snow when you can.
Yeah. But it's a new year. So, appreciate that and enjoy watching films and then listening to us talk about them, which we really appreciate you doing.
Yes, exactly.
All right. You can, if you want to give us money, there's a link in our show notes. Give us money through our Acast supporter page. It's just a one-off thing. Think of it like a tip jar. You can find us on Twitter at BigBoysDon'tPod, on the emails bigboysdon'tcrypodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch.
Yeah, tell me why I'm wrong. Get in touch.
Tell
me
Rob
all the ways
that Frozen 2
wrong.
is better because it has a big water horse in it.
Yeah, get in touch. Tell me why I'm awful and don't deserve to be on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. Why you should be cast into the unknown.
Exactly.
All right, we'll be back next week to talk about The Fifth Element.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
All right, bye.